Hi, this is Tammy. Wanted to welcome you to the Conquering Cravings Masterclass. Today in this class, you're going to learn why you have cravings. What are the things that go into your brain offering up a craving to you? How your diet can make the cravings either better or worse. You're going to learn about overhunger and overdesire, and I want to give you 3 tools that you can use to learn to manage your cravings so that they don't seem so insistent and you don't feel like you're sabotaging your diet. My name is Tammy Fuller. I'm a registered nurse. I work in a small community hospital. I am a certified life and weight coach as well. And we're going to talk about cravings. What's the problem with cravings anyway? Have you ever found yourself standing in front of the pantry or the refrigerator looking like this? Looking like maybe there's nothing good to eat, even though the refrigerator's full of great food. Cravings can feel like you don't have control, like these thoughts in your brain kind of take over and you had all intentions of eating good nutrition that day and pretty soon you're face down in a bowl of ice cream. You may feel like you have to give in. The feeling might be so insistent that you feel like you have to give into the craving or your brain's just not going to let it go. You might feel like you could be successful if only you didn't have the cravings. Well, I'm going to give you some information that hopefully cravings won't feel like such a problem to you. Buffering is a term that we use to describe what we do when we give in to an urge or a craving. And this isn't necessarily food. Food is what we're talking about in this class, but it also happens with Netflix, with drinking, with spending, overworking, anything we do trying to eliminate negative emotion. Giving into it reinforces the craving. So actually, even though you feel like you're getting rid of that negative feeling or you're getting rid of just the over desire, you've actually hardwired it into your brain. So your brain will offer up the craving again in hopes of getting a reward. Your brain actually gets a dopamine hit of pleasure by giving in to the rewards. We are surrounded with concentrated pleasure. Things like sugar and flour. Those foods have been highly concentrated over the years. If you think back 200 years ago, it was rare that people got concentrated sugar, and it was a lot of work to make flour, to make bread or anything like that. It wasn't just available at the grocery store, shelf after shelf after shelf of these foods. Netflix, you know, when I was a kid, we had 3 channels and sometimes those didn't even work very well. Now we have hundreds and thousands of different shows that we can watch and get kind of lost in. Alcohol, very concentrated. Pornography, concentrated. Sexual pleasure available to us. Our brain is tricked into thinking that these pleasures are necessary for survival. It's a false pleasure because the benefit of it is temporary and it has a net negative effect. So you get this temporary hit of dopamine in your brain that reinforces the whole process, but down the road, the effect of it is negative. With Netflix, you know, what were you supposed to be doing during that time? Were you supposed to be being productive, getting something done? With food, we have the negative, net negative effect on the scale or in having to buy new clothes. So there's a concept of 50-50 that my coach talks about. She says that about half the time we should have negative emotion and half the time positive emotion. We think, however, that we should be happy all the time. If we really think about it intellectually, we don't fully believe that, because we all know that if you love an animal or a person and they die, that you want to feel grief. You want to have loved them enough that you're kind of sad when they're gone. So when we go around thinking that we should avoid all these negative emotions, we really are trying to fool ourselves that that's not a part of life. The negative emotions are the balance to what makes positive emotions so wonderful. We think that the buffering, the food, the alcohol, the Netflix, whatever it is we're choosing, we think that it helps. But really, we're just covering up the emotion and whatever we were trying to avoid is still there. It's just fooling us for a moment. So what's the alternative to giving in to your cravings all the time? Can you imagine going to a party and not having food? Can you imagine sitting with friends who are eating and not partaking, going out to a restaurant and saying, no, I'm not really hungry, I'm just going to sit and have some water and enjoy the time with you? We need to start looking at how else we can find joy besides just our food or alcohol. Can you learn to just enjoy the company of people and not give in to eating? So we're going to talk about allowing urges, which is basically the opposite of giving in. So giving 4 ways to respond to a craving. These are the 4 choices we have. So let's just say we have a craving for Oreos. We could give into it and just go face first in the Oreos. We can resist it, which is actively pushing against the thought that you're going to have Oreos. You're trying not to look in the cabinet. You hope your partner is not eating Oreos in front of you. You are pushing the thought away actively. Unfortunately, this much attention on the craving is actually reinforcing it. Another way to respond to a craving is to distract yourself, to do something else, to get up and vacuum the floor, to do the dishes, to take a walk. Really, you're just buffering with something else. You're still not feeling the feeling that you were trying to get away from to begin with. The only way to get better at handling cravings and to eventually quiet them down is to allow them. And I'm going to give you some examples of that. So here is a toddler having a fit. We're going to picture this little guy's in the grocery cart in front of you. He's asking his mommy for candy. He started out by asking nicely, please, can I have candy? And the mom says no. He gets more and more insistent, you know, mommy, 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 mommy. The mom keeps telling him no. Eventually he starts crying, he starts yelling, he gets more insistent, he gets more obnoxious. If he wasn't in a cart, he might be laying on the floor by now, having a fit and kicking his feet. If the mom gives in at this point, the toddler learns that his behavior is rewarded with candy, and all I have to do is really embarrass mom in the grocery store and she'll give in. If the mom resists the toddler by screaming and yelling back, arguing, freaking out, eventually she's exhausted. Sometimes she wins the battle, sometimes the child wins, and the child learns that sometimes if I scream, I can get candy. But if mom allows the child to have a fit, she remains calm. The child learns that his fit has no effect on mom. There's no reward for his urgency. Eventually, he learns not to throw a fit. Our brains are much like this toddler. It suggests certain foods to us. Sorry, didn't mean to advance the slide there. Where's our toddler? There we go. It suggests certain foods to us as a response to reward seeking. If we give the brain the reward, the more it's going to offer that food choice to us. If we, give in to the toddler fits, the brain learns that that's what it needs to do. It's going to keep pushing the idea, be more more insistent about the Oreos or the ice cream or whatever it is you're craving. So what you need to do is be the calm mommy and allow the craving. It's important to acknowledge that you're having it. Sometimes I literally will talk to my brain. I'll say, brain, thank you for the suggestion, but that food's not on the plan tonight. If I want, I can plan for it tomorrow, but we're not having that today. You kind of make room for it. I know that's kind of a woo-woo term, but acknowledge that it's happening, not resist against it, and feel your feelings. Sometimes I have to actually go out of, if I'm in the kitchen or something, I go sit down in another room for a few minutes and just go, okay, maybe I'll say I'm feeling stressed. I had a hard day at work. The old me used to tell myself that I deserved this, that I earned a treat, or that I can't wait for my meal. I had a stressful day, and just kind of acknowledge those feelings and actually physically feel them in my body. And within a few minutes, those urges, those cravings will slowly dissipate. The urges are normal, the cravings are normal. It doesn't mean anything's gone wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're a weaker human being because you have a lot of cravings. It just means you need to feel them and feel the feelings that maybe triggered them, and realize that it's not going to kill you. It's not going to, nothing bad's going to happen by just feeling it. So the cravings are normal. The great thing is, as you learn to manage them, as you actually take the time to feel the feelings, they get less intense. And then eventually they happen less often, which is wonderful. Have you ever quit anything? I used to drink Diet Coke all the time. I would drink 4 or 5 a day. And I would think about them all the time. If I had one, I'd be thinking about the next time I could have one. I know people have those same kind of thoughts about maybe alcohol or cigarettes. And once you quit, and you've been off of them for a time, those thoughts come less often. They're less intense at first, and then they're less often. And that's what we're going to do with the food as we learn to allow the feelings. So a couple of the things we deal with, one is overhunger. This is that physical signal of the body that you're hungry, when really you may not need nutrition as much as your body's making you think. This is driven by 3 hormones: insulin, leptin, and ghrelin. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. A lot of people are familiar with the term insulin because of diabetes. Insulin is in charge of whether you're storing or burning fat. When you eat too much sugar, flour, or other concentrated foods, it creates high insulin levels, higher than normal. If we keep the insulin level high for too long, it puts the body in fat storage mode and it creates insulin resistance. So then your body doesn't use its insulin as well. So it takes more insulin. It's like this whole negative cycle. In order to start burning your own body fat, the insulin has to decrease. This process takes time. After the insulin levels are high for a long time, it takes time to re-regulate the insulin down. This is done by cutting down on concentrated carbohydrates like sugar and flour. Unfortunately, during this process, you're going to feel very hungry. Your body has been used to sending these signals. Eating too often also keeps the insulin high. Every time you have anything that has any carbohydrate in it or protein, it gives your body a burst of insulin. So if you're following the advice to have 3 meals and 3 snacks a day, every couple hours you're pushing up your insulin level again. Another hormone, ghrelin, is called the hunger hormone. It tells you that it's time to eat. I think of it like growling, like your stomach growling. Hunger actually waxes and wanes. Sometimes when we feel really hungry, we have this illusion that the hunger is just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. But actually, I don't know if you've ever had a time where you couldn't eat right when your body was telling you you needed to eat. And pretty soon you realize you're not as hungry anymore. So this hormone tells you it's time to eat, it stimulates your appetite, and it's based on how you've programmed it, how you've been eating. So if you've eaten every couple hours, that's when it kind of turns on and gives you the stomach growling feeling. As you change the way you eat, the ghrelin hormone will adjust accordingly. The hunger sensation is not really a reliable indicator of the need for fuel. It is one indicator, but it is not the only one that we need to go on, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we have leptin. Leptin is a hormone that tells you when you're full. If you have too much insulin, it blocks leptin, so you don't even realize you're full. I don't know if you've had a meal and you realize you are uncomfortably full before you've ever even gotten a signal that you've had enough. You've just kind of blown past the signal to tell you to stop eating. That's one sign that leptin maybe is a little messed up. So to adjust all three hormones, you do that by how often you eat and what you eat. So how often you eat, if you can extend the time between meals, or the time, your fasting time between dinner and your first meal of the next day, that helps to adjust the hormones. Eliminating snacking can help adjust the hormones. And then by what you eat. So not eliminating, but decreasing the amount of concentrated foods that you're eating. This is a hunger scale, and it's one way to kind of train your body when you should eat and when you should stop eating. So this is one I made up. If you Google hunger scale online, you'll find 15, 20, 30 different kinds of hunger scales. This is my scale that I learned to use for my own body. I found it kind of humorous, so hopefully you will too. So 0's just in the middle. The scale at the top that's going negative is your hunger, and then the positive numbers are your satisfaction level. So -1 is you're a little bit hungry, but you really don't even want to get up off the couch to make a sandwich. -2 is you're hungry enough to go make some food. -3 is the loud stomach growling, hunger pangs. You're kind of getting uncomfortable. You feel like you may have gone too long. -4 is hangry. You're actually kind of feeling icky. You're uncomfortably hungry. And then -5 is starvation, which most of us never get to. On the other end of the scale, a 1 is approaching satisfied. So you've started eating, you kind of feel, yep, there's some food hitting my belly, but you're not done. A 2 is satisfied just right. A 3 is full, and your stomach is feeling a little bit stretched. A 4 is you're so full you need to unbutton your pants or put on your leggings, kind of like after Thanksgiving. And 5 is the winner of the hot dog eating contest. The goal here is to stay kind of between a -2 and a +2. So not eating till all the way full. That was one of the first steps I took in my weight loss journey, was not quite going all the way to full, just getting that satisfied feeling. Couple ways I know that I'm hitting satisfied is I start picking at my food. So I start eating what I would consider the good stuff. Maybe if I was eating a salad, I'd be picking out sunflower seeds and cheese instead of eating the vegetables. Another way is I find that I do a sigh. So I'll be partway through my meal and I'll do this big sigh. And all of a sudden I realize that's my body telling me I got what I needed. I can be done. It's not always easy to stop at that point. Most of us have overeaten much of our lives, and our brains are saying, no, you need to eat more. You won't have enough. You're going to be hungry. All this noise comes up. The next topic, we talked about overhunger. Now we're going to talk about overdesire. This shows up in 3 ways. It shows up in the desire for pleasure. It shows up in buffering, and it shows up in our thought life. So the desire for pleasure is driven by dopamine, which is the reward system in your brain. It's the reward that motivates us to action. We have dopamine for survival. It's the neurotransmitter that gets us to seek things like food, safety, sex, warmth, community. In our world, those things are generally plentiful. We have an overabundance of concentrated pleasure. We talked about that already. And the brain doesn't just send dopamine after you have concentrated pleasure. It actually sends it before. So you have the thought of an Oreo. It sends a little bit of dopamine to reinforce that whole cascade of events. Then when you eat it, you get another hit of dopamine, and you also get a little bit of cortisol because your body's already looking to the reward, and it gives you a little bit of cortisol is your stress hormone. It gives you a little bit of anxiety about it, which kind of further ensures that you're going to eat the food. So when you're feeling that insistent feeling that you have to have some food, part of that is the cortisol. One important thing to know is that cortisol in your bloodstream goes away in about 90 seconds. So when you're taking the time to sit down and feel your feelings and allow allow the feeling, allow the urge, allow the craving, it also gives you time for that cortisol to kind of dissipate in your bloodstream. And pretty soon the urge doesn't feel as insistent. Buffering, we've already talked about this, is seeking to be happy. We're avoiding negative emotions. It's also part of indulgent emotion. So an indulgent emotion is something that we experience to get out of doing something. So for example, the feeling of overwhelm is indulgent. The result of feeling overwhelmed is that I don't do anything at all. So it's kind of a convenient emotion, is that if I can allow overwhelm in my life, I can kind of avoid the things that I really don't want to do. I hope that makes sense. Stress is an indulgent emotion. Worry is an indulgent emotion. Worry doesn't actually accomplish anything. It just keeps our brain spinning, and we're not doing any of the work to kind of fix the thing we're worried about. And then our thought life. So really what we do in coaching is help you be more aware of your thinking. The reason we want to do that is your thoughts create the feelings in your body. So whatever those feelings are you're trying to avoid, your thoughts created them. Then those feelings is where we take action from. So if you're having a feeling of commitment, determination, any of those positive, strong feelings, you're going to take different actions than you would if you're feeling unsure or sad or anxious. So we really want to dig in and kind of be aware of our thought life in order to drive the actions that are going to get us the results we want instead of the results we've been getting. So, for example, if you feel like you need to eat or you deserve to eat a snack in the afternoon every day, you're going to have a desire to eat a snack. You might not even realize that you're having this recurring thought. You might be in an environment where everybody snacks in the afternoon, so you have a belief that this is normal. When you recognize this thinking and that it's creating a desire to overeat, you can decide if you want to change that thought. An alternate thought might be, most people think it's okay or it's necessary to have a snack in the afternoon, but most people are also overweight. I don't want to be overweight anymore, so I'm going to believe that my body does not need a snack in the afternoon. This way of eating is robbing me of accomplishing my weight loss goal. So starting to acknowledge the thought that comes up that you need a snack, and then taking the time to remind yourself of the thought you want to think, which is that you're not going to have a snack. It wasn't in the plan for today. If you want to have different results, you have to change your thinking. A lot of diets just kind of tell you what to do, but they don't help you change your thinking. Here's some thought errors. Some of these were thoughts that I used to have. Some of these were thoughts that some of my clients had that we worked on. We might think that eating sweets is just a part of life, or it's normal to eat to celebrate, or I'll be left out if I don't eat with them. How about food is delicious and it's meant to be enjoyed often? Those feel like true statements, but are they getting you the results you want? How about I need to have 3 meals and snacks every day? Or breakfast is the most important meal. Cooking and eating with my family means love. How about this one? I hear this all the time. Everything in moderation. That's great to say, but if you're 100 pounds overweight, it's probably not a great thought to be having. How about life would be terrible without delicious food, or parties without food or drink can't be fun. Diets are hell. Cheating is fun. I could go on and on and on. I'd like you to sit and think about what kind of thought errors might be leading to the results you have in your life. So now we're going to talk about the 3 tools to manage cravings. The 3 tools are 24-hour planning, 100 cravings exercise, and using a cravings jar. 24-hour planning is something I do every day. It's the opposite of eating according to your cravings. It means you make decisions that align with your goals, and it gives you a learning opportunity every single day. So planning your food ahead of time, this means the night before or the day before at some point, you're going to sit down and you're going to write what you're going to eat the next day. I do mine at night. I'd actually like to move it up a little bit, but that's what my habit's been, is I make it at night for the day before. I pull out my planner and I write down the next day what I'm going to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner. If I'm going to have a snack or some sort of dessert, I put that on there. It helps me make decisions, not standing in front of the pantry wondering what's good. It's not planning based on what I feel like eating. It's planning based on the thinking part of my brain, the prefrontal cortex. Helps me make decisions that align with my goal. At the end of the day, the next day, I look at what I planned and what I actually ate, and I make some notes about, did I follow my plan? Did I not follow my plan? If I didn't follow it, I make some notes about why I didn't follow it. It seems like a lot of work, but really it takes me about 5 minutes a night. Maybe when you're first starting out, maybe 10 minutes. It's a way to commit to yourself and commit to the goal that you want to reach. It helps you focus on the goal one day at a time. You know, if you have a large amount of weight to lose, sometimes it just seems overwhelming, kind of looking at the top of Mount Everest and getting overwhelmed, when really you just need to make the next step or the next 10 steps long before you have to worry about the peak of the mountain. So I really encourage you to take this learning opportunity. Super easy to implement. One of the keys to it is realistic planning. So if I've been eating junk food and concentrated convenience foods every day, and I make a plan that I'm going to be eating chicken breast with a salad for 3 meals tomorrow, my likelihood of being successful is really not that great. I need to start learning to plan what I'm actually going to eat. If I'm going to eat a TV dinner macaroni and cheese, I need to write that down. And the first part of learning this is sticking to your plan. So tomorrow, if I don't feel like macaroni and cheese, I still need to follow my plan. Once you learn to make a plan ahead of time and stick to it, even despite obstacles that come up in your day, then you can start leveling up your choices into better and better choices. But first, the first habit to adopt is 24-hour planning and sticking to it and doing a review at the end of the day. Specifically when it comes to cravings, to exercise, they're very similar. You can do both or you can do one or the other. One is to get a piece of paper or a journal. On the right hand of the slide is kind of my example of how I was keeping track of it in a notes app on my phone. Is you're numbering 1 to 100 and you're going to keep track of 100 cravings, your next 100 cravings. So you can see I wrote number 6, I wanted to eat something about an hour before dinner. I reminded myself that it's okay to be hungry. Number 7, I had an urge to snack. It was non-specific. I just wanted anything, cheese, granola bar, sweets. I didn't entertain the thought long, but the thought kept coming back and then fading. It didn't have much power and it felt good to notice it without drama. By the time you get to 100 of these urges that you've actually paid attention to, you're going to see a difference in the intensity of the cravings and the frequency. And then the cravings jar is similar to that, except instead of writing down and taking notes, you're going to fill up a jar with little beads. You can go get marbles at the store and a mason jar. You can do it any way you want, but it kind of adds some fun and adds some visual cue to allowing an urge. So the only time you're going to put a bead in the jar is if you didn't give in, you didn't resist, you didn't distract, but you took the time to kind of allow yourself to feel the feeling. And 10 or 15 minutes later, you still hadn't eaten the food, you get to put a bead in the jar. kind of makes the goal a little bit fun. So in this class, we talked about why you have cravings, how your diet, what you're eating, how often you're eating can make the cravings better or worse. We talked about overhunger and overdesire and kind of how they're driving your cravings and your desire to eat food beyond what your body needs. And then 3 tools to learn to manage the cravings. So the next steps, you can get a free goal planning session with me. I love to spend 45 minutes on the phone with you. And we talk about where you are right now in your journey. We kind of dream a little bit about where you want to be, and then kind of set some goals to how to get there, some actions to take the next step, and it's totally free. I also have a 6-week program called Eating on Purpose. Instead of eating according to your cravings, we're going to take you through kind of a deep dive into a lot of the topics we've talked about today, along with some others, to help you gain the skills you need to lose the weight and be able to keep it off because you've fixed the thinking part of it, not just followed some diet out of a program. So there's the link to sign up for a free session. I'll also put that in your email so you don't have to feel like you have to jot it down now. And thank you so much for coming to the class. Please email me with any questions you might have. I'd love to help. Thank you.